Viewer advisory. The events you are about to witness are based on a true story. Some scenes may be deeply unsettling for certain audiences. Viewer discretion is strongly recommended. The police body camera trembled as Officer Sarah Chun descended the rotting wooden stairs into darkness. December 13th, 2021, would forever be etched in her memory as the day that hardened law enforcement officers wept like children. The beam of her flashlight cut through the musty air of the abandoned house in Riverside, Alabama, finally settling on a site so horrific that seasoned investigators would require counseling for months afterward. "We got a body," Chen's voice cracked through the radio. Female child. Basement. 5-year-old Emma Richardson lay motionless on the cold concrete floor, her small body bearing evidence of unspeakable torture. But the true horror of this case wasn't just what happened in that basement. It was who orchestrated it. Emma hadn't been taken by a stranger in the night. She had been sold by her own mother to a monster for the price of $1,800. Detective Ray Thompson had investigated child abuse cases for 15 years, but nothing prepared him for what he would uncover about Emma's final hours. As he stood over the child's body that December morning, he couldn't know that this case would expose a web of depravity stretching back decades, involving a predator who had evaded justice for far too long. Welcome to True Uncovered Crime. Tonight's story is one that will leave you rattled. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe, give this video a like, and tell us in the comments where in the world you're tuning in from. Now, let's begin. Emma Richardson should have been counting down the days until Christmas morning, perhaps rehearsing lines for her school's holiday play or helping her grandmother bake cookies. Instead, she became the victim of a transaction so vile that it would shake 2 states and leave a community questioning how such evil could flourish undetected. Born on September 15th, 2016, Emma was described by everyone who knew her as a child whose laughter could fill an entire room. Her kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Patricia Williams, remembered Emma as the little girl who always volunteered to help classmates struggling with their letters, who shared her snacks without being asked, who drew pictures of rainbows and butterflies with meticulous care. She had this way of tilting her head when she concentrated. Mrs. Williams would later testify through tears. Her tongue would stick out just a little bit. She was so proud when she finally learned to write her whole name without help. Emma lived with her mother, Diana Richardson, in a modest duplex on Maple Street in Columbus, Georgia. Her father, Robert Richardson, had been fighting for increased custody rights, growing increasingly concerned about Diana's lifestyle and the revolving door of men who frequented their home at all hours. Court records would later reveal that Child Protective Services had received multiple anonymous tips about Diana's parenting, but each investigation had been closed without action. Neighbors reported seeing Emma outside alone at odd hours, sometimes still in her pajamas, while loud arguments echoed from inside the house. "I should have called the police more often," neighbor Helen Martinez would later tell reporters, guilt weighing heavy in her voice. But you don't want to be the person who breaks up a family over what might be nothing. Now I wish I had been that person. The monster waiting across the state line was Vincent Bradley, a 42-year-old drifter with a criminal history spanning 3 states. In 1998, Bradley's infant son had died under suspicious circumstances in Oregon. Though never formally charged, child welfare workers had documented concerning injuries on the baby in the weeks before his death. In 2003, Bradley was arrested in Nevada for child endangerment, but pleaded down to a lesser charge. A 2011 assault charge in Florida was dropped when key witnesses failed to appear in court. Each time, Bradley managed to slip through the cracks of an overburdened system, moving to a new state where his history remained hidden. By 2021, Bradley was living in the abandoned house on Riverside Avenue where Emma's body would eventually be found. He had discovered the property months earlier, understanding that its isolation made it perfect for his dark purposes. The house sat at the end of a dead-end street, surrounded by overgrown lots where no neighbors could witness what happened inside. Bradley's relationship with Diana Richardson began online, through a dating app where he presented himself as a construction worker looking for a stable relationship. What Diana didn't know was that Bradley had been carefully studying her social media posts, learning about her financial struggles, her desperation for male attention, and most importantly, her young daughter. Their first meeting occurred in November 2021 at a roadside diner halfway between Columbus and Riverside. Diana brought Emma, introducing her to the man she believed might become her new boyfriend. Bradley was patient, charming, buying Emma a chocolate milkshake and listening attentively to her chatter about school and her favorite cartoons. He seemed so normal, Diana would later tell investigators. He was good with Emma. He made her laugh. I thought maybe I'd finally found someone decent. But Bradley's interest in Emma wasn't paternal. Text messages recovered from his phone revealed his true intentions, along with his gradual manipulation of Diana's financial desperation. He learned about her mounting debts, her fear of eviction, her willingness to do almost anything for money. The negotiation began in early December with Bradley offering Diana $500 for photos of Emma. When Diana agreed, sending increasingly inappropriate images, Bradley understood he had found someone willing to exploit her own child. The price climbed to $1,200 for babysitting Emma overnight, with the understanding that Diana wouldn't ask questions about what happened during those hours. On December 12, 2021, Diana Richardson made the drive that would end her daughter's life. Security cameras at a gas station captured the moment Emma skipped beside her mother toward Bradley's waiting truck, unaware that she was being delivered to her death. What happened in that abandoned house was documented by Bradley himself, who filmed his crimes with the same casual attention others might give to recording a family barbecue. The video evidence, too disturbing to describe in detail, showed hours of systematic torture ending with Emma's strangulation. Dr. Angela Foster, the medical examiner who performed Emma's autopsy, testified that the child had been given a combination of alcohol and prescription sedatives before her death. These substances would have made her drowsy and compliant, Dr. Foster explained to the court. It was a deliberate attempt to incapacitate her. After killing Emma, Bradley continued his assault on her lifeless body, crimes so depraved that even experienced prosecutors struggled to maintain their composure while presenting the evidence. He then made methodical attempts to destroy physical evidence, cleaning the scene and disposing of items that might contain DNA. Meanwhile, Diana Richardson waited until the following morning to report Emma missing, crafting an elaborate story about waking to find her daughter gone and the front door open. She appeared on local news broadcasts, tearfully pleading for Emma's safe return while knowing exactly where her daughter's body lay. The investigation unraveled Diana's deception within hours. Phone records showed extensive communication between her and Bradley, including text messages negotiating payment for spending time with Emma. When confronted with this evidence, Diana's carefully constructed facade crumbled. "I never thought he would hurt her," she sobbed to Detective Thompson during her interrogation. "He said he just wanted to take some pictures. He said she'd be safe." Bradley's arrest came at a truck stop just outside Riverside, where he was calmly eating breakfast as if nothing had happened. When officers approached, he showed no emotion, no surprise, no resistance. In his truck, they found Emma's blood on clothing he hadn't yet discarded and additional evidence linking him to her death. The trial of Vincent Bradley began 8 months later, with jury selection requiring weeks due to the disturbing nature of the evidence. Judge Margaret Stone warned potential jurors that they would see and hear testimony that would be difficult to process, but even her warnings couldn't prepare them for the reality. On the first day of testimony, as prosecutors played portions of Bradley's recorded crimes, 3 jurors requested to be dismissed. The judge denied their requests, explaining that justice for Emma required them to witness the full scope of what had been done to her. Bradley's defense team, led by attorney Michael Santos, attempted to argue mental illness, claiming their client suffered from severe psychological disorders that diminished his responsibility. The strategy collapsed when prosecutors presented evidence of Bradley's meticulous planning, his careful selection of victim and location, and his calculated steps to avoid detection. This defendant knew exactly what he was doing, District Attorney Jennifer Walsh told the jury during closing arguments. Every action was deliberate, every decision calculated. He hunted this child with the patience of a predator and the assistance of someone who should have protected her above all others. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours before returning guilty verdicts on all charges: capital murder, kidnapping, rape, and production of child pornography. When the verdicts were read, Emma's father, Robert Richardson, collapsed in tears while family members embraced. During the penalty phase, the prosecution presented victim impact statements that painted a portrait of a life cut tragically short. Emma's teacher spoke about the butterfly garden Emma had been planning for the school's courtyard. Her grandmother described the elaborate tea parties they would never share. Her father read a letter he had written to his daughter, promising that her death would not be in vain. The defense presented evidence of Bradley's troubled childhood, his history of mental illness, and testimony from family members pleading for his life. But the jury, after seeing the full scope of his crimes against Emma, recommended the death penalty without hesitation. Judge Stone sentenced Bradley to death by lethal injection for the capital murder charge, with additional life sentences for his other convictions. As she pronounced the sentence, her voice carried the weight of a community's grief and rage. "Vincent Bradley, you have committed crimes so heinous, so utterly without justification or excuse, that society demands the ultimate punishment," Judge Stone declared. "Emma Richardson was an innocent child whose life was stolen by your depravity. May you never again have the opportunity to harm another child." Diana Richardson, facing her own trial, accepted a plea agreement rather than risk the death penalty. She pleaded guilty to human trafficking and child endangerment, receiving a sentence of 35 years in prison with no possibility of parole for 25 years. At her sentencing hearing, Diana attempted to address Emma's father and family. "I know sorry isn't enough," she said, her voice barely audible. "I know I can never make this right. I failed her. I failed everyone." Robert Richardson stood to respond, his voice strong despite his tears. "You didn't fail her, Diana. You sold her. You took our beautiful little girl, and you sold her to a monster for money. There's no forgiveness for that. There never will be." The case sent shockwaves through both communities, leading to reforms in how child protection services share information across state lines. Emma's law, passed by the Georgia legislature, requires enhanced background checks for adults in homes where children reside and creates a database to track suspected child predators across jurisdictions. Detective Thompson, who led the investigation, retired early following Emma's case, unable to continue working child abuse investigations after witnessing the depths of human cruelty. "I've seen a lot of evil in my career," he said during his farewell ceremony. "But Emma's case broke something in me that I don't think will ever heal." The abandoned house where Emma died was demolished 6 months after Bradley's conviction, with the lot converted into a memorial garden featuring Emma's beloved butterflies. A small plaque reads, "In memory of Emma Richardson, whose light continues to shine in the hearts of those who loved her." On what would have been Emma's 7th birthday, her father released dozens of rainbow-colored balloons in her memory, each one carrying a message of love from family members and friends. As the balloons disappeared into the September sky, Robert Richardson spoke to reporters about his determination to ensure his daughter's death leads to protection for other children. "Emma was the most precious thing in my world," he said. "If her story prevents even one other child from experiencing what she went through, then maybe some good can come from this evil." Vincent Bradley remains on Alabama's death row, where he spends 23 hours a day in solitary confinement. He has never shown remorse for his crimes, never explained why he chose to destroy an innocent life with such calculated cruelty. Appeals will likely keep him alive for years to come, but justice has been served. Emma Richardson's memory lives on in the lives she continues to touch through the reforms her death inspired, and in the hearts of those who knew her bright smile and generous spirit. Her story reminds us that evil exists in forms we can barely comprehend, but also that justice, however delayed, can prevail. In a world where children face dangers we struggle to understand, Emma's legacy is a call to vigilance, to protection, and to the understanding that the price of innocence should never be measured in dollars, but in the infinite value of a child's life and the future that was stolen from us all. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. If you haven't already, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. We upload new true crime content daily, covering cases you know and many you don't. Stick with us as we bring you more stories that deserve to be heard. See you in the next video.